The schus of our learning we should merit Beis Hamikdash immediately. And our four Shleima for Yechiel Nassim ben Sarah and Aaron David Alevi ben Menucha Lester and Sarah Basara. Right. We're going to start on the Mishnah on Lamed Beis Amid Beis. There's two Mishnayos here. We'll start from the first one. Oivel Lefnei HaTeva b'Yom Tov Shel Rosh Hashanah. Oivel Lefnei HaTeva means the chazan. He passes in front of the box. That means he's the chazan. He's standing by the front. So Hasheni Maskia. There's a chazan for Shachris. There's a chazan for Musaf. The one that blows the shofar is the chazan from Musaf. B'shasa Halal Harishan Makir Halal. When it's a time of reciting Halal, Halal is said by the chazan for Shachris, the shliach tzibur for Shachris. Maishna, the Gemara asks, Maishna Sheni Maskia. Why do we have the second one blowing the shofar, the chazan for Musaf? Why? The Brevam Hadras Melech. The Gemara makes an interesting assumption that by the time it's Musaf time, then more people are in shul than there were for Shachris.
Yeah, the same problem.
Yeah, the same problem. As much as it changes, it stays the same. If that's the case, then Halal Nami Nema B'Sheni Mishim B'Reivam Hadras Melech. Why don't you say Halal in the second one? We'll have more people there. Halal the Berisha Mishim Dezrizim Makdim LaMitzvahs. Why do we do Halal but for Shachris? Because it's better to do things early in the morning. There's reason. They're Makdim LaMitzvahs. They do it early. So Tkiya Nami Navid Berisha Mishim Dezrizim Makdim LaMitzvahs. It's a very interesting question. Why don't we do it earlier? It turned out that it was a time of shmad, a time of persecution. They didn't allow us to blow the shofar. So the people that would go check out to make sure that we're keeping the rules, they would only stay. They had a government job that ended at about 12 o'clock. And the rest of the day they went home. So after 12, we could already blow the shofar because they went home. That's the way Rashi learns. Taisvus and Rabbeinu Chanan al-Quote Yerushalmi that there was one time that there were enemies were there and they heard us blowing in the morning and it was very dangerous because they thought that was a war cry and they thought we were attacking. But when we blow later in the day, that's not considered a time for battle, and it's probably just in prayer, and it's more acceptable by the enemies. Okay, that's two explanations for this. Yeah, what about, is this a prohibition or is this just a community thing? Because let's say you wanted to blow the shofar before Shachris, which was done. People, sometimes they want to do that if they want to eat or they want to do this, they want to get the mitzvah over with. With Alter Rebbe one time, was the competition who would blow the shofar first to see who would win. There was this thing in heaven. Remember the story? Napoleon or the Tsar. The Alter Rebbe supported the Tsar. And the other Hasidic Rebbes supported Napoleon. And at that time it was a battle between Napoleon and Russia. So they said it was decided in heaven that whoever blows the shofar first will win. And the Alter Rebbe woke up early and he blew the shofar before davening. Everyone else woke up early and they started to daven quickly. Blew the shofar before davening. And they said, the Litvak one. The Chabad was called the Litvak. It says the Litvak one. That's what they. Anyway, apparently you're allowed to blow the shofar before davening. It's only a community thing where it's supposed to be, during the Musaf prayer. Okay, Midaka Amar B'Shasa Halal Michlal the Rosh Hashanah Leka Halal. This is a very famous Gemara. The Darshanim love it. The rabbi speeches. The fact that it says that at the time of Halal, you say Halal in Shachris. It sounds like we're not talking about Rosh Hashanah. Apparently, you don't say Halal on Rosh Hashanah. My time, what's the reason? Amar Rabavo. Rabavo comes along and explains. Yeah, Rabavo will have today another time as well. Amru Malchi Asher Slifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The angels told Hashem, Rabbeinu Shalom, Mipnei Mayin Yisrael Emrim Shir Lefnecha B'Rosh Hashanah V'Yom Kippurim. From their perspective, they're a little surprised. the world is getting a renewal. It's getting its new life for this coming year. How come the Jewish people aren't saying praises? Amalahem, so Hashem protects the Jewish people from the angels. It says, Efsher melech yesh val kisi din. Is it possible? The king is sitting in judgment. Sifri Chaim, Sifri Mesim, Psuchim Lefanav, the books of the living, the books of the dead are open. Yisraelim and Shira, and they start to sing. It's not appropriate. Yeah, so the Darshanim, they make a big deal about this. They say Sifri Chaim and Sifri Mesim refers to the people that are alive now and the people that are passed away already. Because people pass away with things that are unfinished. So what type of influence did they have on the living? So the way we play it out, the Sifri Chaim and the Sifri Mesim, the books of those that have passed away already, are also being judged. Because the way it plays out later is, yeah. Okay. A new Mishnah, Shofar Shel Rosh Hashanah. The shofar for Rosh Hashanah, Ein Ma'avir Malavas Atum. You're not allowed to take it 2,000 amas. I need a shofar. I'm going to get it from I don't care where. No, it's not how it works. You're not allowed to violate the Yom Tif to get the shofar. There was a story, there was this chassid, the Radatz was called. Radatz. That's one of the chains, the first one of the from the Chabad family, and he was traveling together with the Radal. Rabbi David Luria was a rav in Vilna. He wrote commentary on. Anyway, it was Erev Rosh Hashanah, and they weren't coming to the place quick enough. The Radal wanted to get off the wagon, and this chassid said, "I heard a mimer from my Rebbe about Kiyas of Rosh Hashanah, and I'm not stopping." I don't know exactly. It's not a lesson, but anyway. Okay, so he wants to hear the shofar. The problem is the shofar isn't there. You're not allowed to get it. Let's say it's stuck on the rubble. You're not allowed to raise the rubble to get it. Let's say it's stuck in a tree. You can't go up a tree to get it. You can't ride on an animal to get it. You can't float on the water. You're not allowed to cut it. Whether it's a rabbinic prohibition or if it's a biblical prohibition. It's said a little odd there. It should have said the other way. Whether it's a biblical or rabbinic, you're not allowed to cut it, right? The Gemara is going to ask that. We're talking about making an instrument that you wouldn't be allowed to do. For possibly, if you do it in a normal way, then that would be a biblical prohibition. If you do it in an abnormal way, then maybe it would become rabbinic. If you want to put inside of it water or wine, that's not a problem. You're allowed to fix up the sound by soaking it in these liquids. You don't stop children from blowing. Children can blow the shofar, even though they're not fulfilling the mitzvah, they're just playing around. But that's acceptable because we want them also to learn how to blow. You can be involved with them until they learn how to blow. We'll see. It's going to be a big chiddush in this. But someone that blows the shofar, not without intention, just like playing around with it, so he's not fulfilling the mitzvah. And someone that hears from someone that's not really intending to blow the shofar, but it's still nevertheless there sounds there, he's not yotza. The Gemara says, "My timer. Why is the shofar not? Why can you not go out of the tchum? Why can you not do all those things to get the shofar?" The Gemara answers, "Shofar asehu." There's a positive command to hear the shofar. The Yom Tov is aseh v'leis aseh. Yom Tov it says leisasa malacha, don't do work, and also says Shabbosain, that it's a day of rest. That means that it's an aseh and a leis aseh. Now, usually in aseh, a positive command is stronger than a negative command, and it would push it off. But here, it's a positive command to blow the shofar, and it's a negative command and a positive command for Yom Tov.
Is that when they use the term had to talk?
Yeah, that's a little different. I say that has to do with that's a little different. That's a follow-up of this is two prohibitions. One is you shall rest on Yom Tov, another one is you shall not do work. If it would have only said you shall not do work, then we would violate the Yom Tov to get the shofar. because it also says you shall rest, which is a positive command, then we can't push it off. Can't push it off. How does Chassidus explain that? Well, the asay is creative. When you perform a mitzvah, you're accomplishing something in heaven. The leis asay is just you're not doing something. So the asay is like a big accomplishment. So it would normally push off a leis asay, but not if there's another asay. Okay, you can't go up a tree or ride on an animal. Here's our question. According to the Bavli, as opposed to the Yerushalmi, Tchumen, the Tchum Shabbos is rabbinic. In the fact that you're not allowed to walk out of a city where there's no houses, 2,000 amos is a rabbinic law. Yerushalmi holds it's a deraisa, but the Bavli holds it's rabbinic. So you already told me that you're not allowed to do a rabbinic prohibition. Now you're telling me that you can't climb a tree. Now, the truth is, climbing a tree is also rabbinic, but it's based on a biblical prohibition. You may take off branches while you're climbing. So if I have a rabbinic law that I'm not allowed to do you have to then tell me that you're not allowed to do a rabbinic law that could lead to a biblical prohibition? Kolshkin. So the Gemara says, you have to tell me that you can't do a deraisa. So it says, no, you didn't read the Mishnah right. The Mishnah was actually telling you with that pattern. I don't have to tell you that you can't do this. That's the way the Mishnah was set up. We're on top of Lamed Gimel. You can't cut it with a knife that would be a rabbinic prohibition. You can't cut it with a knife that would be a biblical prohibition. Mishum shvus is migla. A rabbinic prohibition, that's shvus is rabbinic, is like a magal. Magal, I think, is like a sickle or some sort. Yeah. That's used for weed. It's not used for cutting horns. However, leisase would be a sakina. That would be like really using the right instruments to make this shofar. That would be a biblical prohibition of making the vessel, probably under the category of makibah patish of some sort, misaken mana. Okay. He asked the same question again. If you already told me you can't do something that would be rabbinic, you have to tell me you can't do biblical. So it says this, and not only this, but I'm sorry, I don't have to tell you. Once I tell you this, I don't have to tell you the next halach. That would be obvious. Yeah, that's the way we're answering. We're answering with, that's exactly what the Mishnah is doing. It's adding in those extra things in saying that it doesn't even have to say that by saying it. Okay. But if you want to put in water or wine, you can. In water, wine, yes, that you're allowed to put in the shofar. Meiraglayim, but urine, loy, you're not allowed to put urine in the shofar. Masnisin Mani, who's the author of our Mishnah? Abasholi, it's Abashol. The Tanya was taught in a Brisa. Abashol Eimer Mayim Ayayin Mutal Etzachtzachai. You're allowed to put in water or wine to make the sound nice. Meiraglayim also covered, but you're not allowed to put in urine covered. The shofar, I don't think the shofar goes in Shemus, but you're not allowed to mistreat it. If you have a broken shofar, you have to put it in Shemus. I think you can throw it out, but you're not allowed to mistreat it. You're not allowed to degrade it in a way that similar to your not your talis, but your tzitzis. So you're allowed to wear tzitzis into the bathroom, but you're not allowed to mistreat it in a way. You're not supposed to throw it in the garbage, like in the dirty garbage, but you can put it in a bag, whatever, and then put it. I think they use the strings for like binding or something, or bookmarks or something. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You don't stop the children from blowing the shofar. Hanashim, but let's say the women want to blow the shofar. Ma'akven, you do stop them. You notice in the Mishnah it only said you don't stop the children. V'hatanya, but we have a brayse in ma'akven le'as hanashim le'as tinekes milatkaya b'yamtiv. You don't stop the women and the children from blowing on yamtiv. Amar Abaya, you see we have a contradiction here. Abaya says like kasha, it's no problem. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon. These are three students of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yehuda has one opinion. Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Shimon have another opinion, and it's based on another machlekes. regarding if there is a mitzvah to do something for men to do something, is a woman allowed to do it? Or is it restricted that it's only men? It goes like this. The Tanya was taught in a brayso, Dabral b'nei Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people. And over there it says that a person will bring a sacrifice. He's supposed to lean on the sacrifice called smicha. B'nei Yisrael samchem vein, b'nei Yisrael samches. Speak to the sons of Israel, not the daughters of Israel. They don't do this. Div Rabbi Yehuda, that's Rabbi Yehuda's view. Rabbi Yisrael, Rabbi Shimon, I'm Menachem samches rishos. Rabbi Yisrael and Rabbi Shimon say they're allowed to. Doesn't say they have to, but they're allowed to. So, according to Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon, they're allowed to blow the shofar. You don't have to. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, they're not allowed to. Says Tosfos.
It's like aspects of mitzvah and lo mitzvah.
Yeah.
They're allowed to.
Yeah,
Can women mekadesh other women, or
that's interesting. The other women don't have to hear anyway. So whatever they do is like extra.
okay.
So Tosfos says that the author of our Mishnah said that you don't stop children, but it sounds like from our Mishnah that you do stop women. That would be a stam Mishnah that's paskening like Rabbi Yehuda. He says, nevertheless, the halacha here is like Rabbi Yossi, that women are allowed to blow the shofar. And he says, I'll give you a proof. Michal Bashal.
Earlier we learned that we don't stop the children because we're allowing them to learn. And
Yeah.
women should be spending time with them in order to teach them so that we can have future ballet to care. With a woman, you're not going to have a ballet to care. So there's no positive benefit that you're going to get out of it.
No, so the woman wants to hear shofar.
She wants to hear it.
She wants to hear
But
it.
we
So
allow,
she's going to
we
blow
allow
it
the
herself.
children to blow it because we're trying to get them to the point where
Yeah,
they're going to be.
to learn. And the women want to be yaitza now. So it's for the children, it's sort of like a future, and for the women, it would be for right now.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what it sounds like. So Michal Bashal wore tefillin. And the wife of Yaina was Ayla Regel, even though she didn't have to.
And the daughters of Rashi also.
Well, yeah. Tosfos over here doesn't mention that his mothers wore tefillin, which is surprising. Then Tosfos gives a little jump. And he says that not only did Michal Bashal wear tefillin, but she also made a bracha on the tefillin when she put it on. And he has a proof. His proof is that there was a sage, Rabbi Yosef, that was blind. He said, if anyone will tell me that a blind person is pater from mitzvahs, then I'll make a holiday for everyone because I'm going to do the mitzvahs anyway, and it's going to be better. So paskin that blind people are exempt. And then he heard that it's better to be obligated and to do the mitzvah than to do it as a voluntary thing. So he switched. Now the question is, why would he have made a holiday on his original thought? If he's exempt, if he wouldn't be allowed to say a bracha, he would lose out on all the brachas. It must be that regarding the brachas, he wasn't going to lose out. He was allowed, even if someone that's exempt is allowed to say a bracha. Comes out over here is this major machlekes between Tosfos and the Rambam, which is really a machlekes, now it's a machlekes Sfardim and Ashkenazim. If a woman does a mitzvah that she's exempt from, does she say a bracha? According to Tosfos, he says that the prohibition of making a bracha on something that you're not obligated is only rabbinic. And if you're doing it voluntary, you're allowed to say it. According to the Rambam, the prohibition of saying a bracha is biblical. Of saying a bracha when it's not necessary is biblical. And if you're not really obligated, you're not supposed to say the bracha.
Is this bracha she'enat tzricha?
Yeah, it's like, well, it comes out that it's a bracha she'enat tzricha. Bracha she'enat tzricha, according to the Rambam, is a biblical prohibition. According to Tosfos, it's a rabbinic. And based on that,
Is this the case of Hanukkah candles?
Well, Hanukkah is itself rabbinic.
Women,
That's something else.
they light Hanukkah
That's
candles in
complicated,
this party home, they don't.
But what about shaking lulav? In the Sephardic women shake lulav. Ashkenazi women shake lulav. Yeah, and they like to hear the shofar also. In Sephardic homes, do the women hear the shofar?
Yes.
They do.
Big deal.
Okay.
I'm about to catch.
We always have this on Mitzrayim. You know, you go out on the street, you go shake lulav with So you tell them to say the bracha, and then every once in a while they say, "No, I'm Sephardic. I don't say the bracha." They say, "Okay, that's okay." Aval misaskim bahem ad sheyilmadu. Okay, this Gemara is a very difficult Gemara. I'm not.
This is misasking by the women?
This is misaskim with the children. It's
So
a very.
when
This is a very. Yeah. Okay. Period. After the rishus, that was a machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon, and we came out with that our Mishnah would follow Rabbi Yehuda, but women would blow according to Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon. They would be allowed to blow the shofar, which Taisa says would be the halacha. Now, misaskim b'mad sheyilmadu is the next piece of the Mishnah. Is that children? You're involved with the children until they learn how to blow. Amar Rabbi Elazar afilu b'Shabbos. Rabbi Elazar says even on Shabbos. Now this is very difficult because we don't blow the shofar on Shabbos for other reasons. I know it still is the day of shofar, but if the adults aren't supposed to be and now the children are gonna, this is odd. Tanya nami hachi misaskim behem ad sheyilmadu afilu b'Shabbos. You're involved with them to learn even on Shabbos. Vein ma'akven atinekes militkaya b'Shabbos. You don't stop them from blowing. Vein tzarich lem b'Yom Tov. And for sure not on Yom Tov, you don't stop them. The Gemara is a little surprised by the way that statement went. It says Hagu for Kasha. It seems to be a contradiction. Amrit misaskim behem ad sheyilmadu. First you start off saying that you're involved with them. Afilu b'Shabbos. Amal lechatchila amrin antiku. That means that you're like encouraging them. V'haditani ein ma'akfin. And then you say you don't stop them. Ikuvod le'ma'akfin. That means you don't stop them. Halachatchila loy amrin antiku. But lechatchila you don't tell them to blow. So are you encouraging them or you're just not stopping them? Gemara says like kasha. Kan b'katan shegiel lechinach, kan b'katan shleigiel lechinach. If it's a giel lechinach, you reach the age of education, then you encourage them. If he's not the age of education, then you just don't stop them. You let them play with it. That's the way Rashi learns. Taisvis makes a big deal out of this. He says he doesn't get the pshat. He says if it's leigi chinuch, then it's less of a problem of having them do it.
Was like an actual person, or was it a group of people at the same ideology?
Yeah, well, there's two things. There's the Balei Taisvis, the authors of Taisvis. That's a group, but it's the Taisvis. Who wrote each Taisvis is not so clear. Some Masechtas we have a tradition that this was written by so and so. Yeah, Rabbi Natan was a major. It turns out that the Taisvis is a collection of comments on the Gemara, and they usually have a certain pattern to the Taisvis, what they're doing. They introduce to you other Gemaras that don't fit perfectly with this.
Wow.
As opposed to Rashi. Rashi doesn't introduce other Gemaras. He just lets you know what it says over here. Yeah. So Taisvis is like a more advanced. He creates problems for someone that doesn't have any problems yet, because, and that's why you usually learn it a little later, like because they usually learn it when things start to bother you, like so. Then Taisvis there and resolves those issues. Otherwise, when you learn it too young, you're just like.
I just like the way you said it. It creates problems when you don't have problems.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? That's what I was.
A misasik layatza. That's what we said. Misasik, someone that is involved, he's misasik is involved in something else. He ends up blowing the shofar. Misasik is not clear. What is he blowing the shofar intentionally, not for the mitzvah, or is he just playing with the shofar and sounds come out? We'll see in this Gemara. Hotekei l'shir. So misasik means he's blowing it and he's not even intending to make sounds. He's just like fooling around. But if he's actually blowing it, intending to make sounds, tekei l'shir, but he's doing it, he wants to play a song, whatever. Old MacDonald, he's playing. It turns out that there's a tkiya there and a shvarim and a tkiya as well. Then it would be yatza. Lema Messiah lei. Let's bring this as a proof. It doesn't say it clearly in the Mishnah, but it's implied from the Mishnah. Messiah lei l'rava, dama rava, tekei l'shir yatza. That if someone blows a song on the shofar, and it comes out the sounds of of that he's supposed to hear, he's yatsa. That's what Rava said before. Remember, mitzvahs ain't strichus kavana.
Yeah.
The Gemara says no. Dilma tekela shir nami misasik karle. How do you know that that's the pshat in misasik? You were thinking that misasik means that he was playing with the shofar and sounds came out unintentionally. No, misasik was he was playing with the shofar to play a song. He just wasn't intending to blow the shofar, and we're saying that you're not yaitza, so it's no proof for Rava. Someone that hears from someone that's playing with the shofar is also not yaitza. But let's say someone was blowing for himself and he didn't have you that's standing on the side, he didn't have you in mind. Are you yaitza? Yeah. So it sounds like you are yaitza, because if someone hears from a misasik, you're not yaitza. Sounds like if you hear from someone that's blowing for himself, you are yaitza.
Isn't the context of Mithasik here that he is teaching the children? That's the context that brought the Mithasik.
Yeah, it switches though. It seems like it switches. Misaskim imar means that you're encouraging them, and then vamisasik is like a new case. Misasik means that he's not intending to blow the shofar.
So nothing to do with the children, right?
Yeah.
It's not that he's teaching.
Yeah, I see what he's saying, but at least the way the Gemara is learning it is that it's like a new case. So what's implied from this is that if someone is blowing it for himself and someone else is listening, he's yaitza. Now, this could be a question on Reb Zera. Damar le Reb Zera l'shamei. Reb Zera told the shamish, "Ichvin v'takali," intend and blow for me. That means intend to have me in mind. Now, why do you have to say that? Just blow, and Reb Zera would automatically be yaitza, because even if he blows for himself, it's good enough as long as he had a sound. Dilma, I did the Tanareshim Masasik, Tanami Sefer Masasik. You're right. Really, we said Masasik is la yatza, but Vashemem and Masasik is la yatza. What we really intended to say is Hashemeya from anyone that doesn't have you in mind is la yatza. But we started off with Masasik, we continued with Masasik, but really it's much more than that. Yeah. That's why it's so difficult when you get quotes from things and people tell you, see, there's a quote. A quote, without getting the full paragraph, doesn't tell you what. See, over here, if you just give me one quote, I would have come out with a different conclusion. But now, no, you were talking about Masasik. In that context, it means this. You can't like be medaic from a quote. You don't.
Whole religion on it.
Yeah.
Right.
They built an entire religion based on
Right.
It's interesting you say that, because
quote out of context.
the trial that's going on now.
Yeah, very much.
Shot with the killed other people, right?
Uh-huh.
The prosecution was showing clips from a movie and saying, well, here you see the guy has his hands up there, but initially he wasn't showing the entire clip, the entire
Right.
movie. Now they're going and showing the things, and you get a whole different story to
Right.
what actually proceeded and led up to that.
Right. Very nice. Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah. Secondary sources. People, they come out with a different story. Okay, say the tkiyas. Are you ready? So this is a whole sugya here. The order of the tkiyas, shalish, is malchias, zechrenis, and shayfris. Shalish, shalish. And each one of them, you have to blow 3 times, which means trua, tkiya, trua, tkiya. Each one has a set of 3. And then there's malchias and zechrenis and shayfris. We'll see if that's biblical or rabbinic. Shir tkiya keshalish truas. What's the length of a tkiya? The length of a tkiya is the size of 3 truas. Rashi says 3 truas is 3 sounds, small sounds. Da da da. A tkiya would already be the. That's a tkiya, because da 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 is according to Rashi a trua. So the tkiya would be the, and that would be the whole thing. That's a shvarim. Shvarim is the. Now, based on this, Rashi's pshat in this shalish truas, based on this, comes out a complication that when you do your shvarim, you have to make sure you don't do it larger than 3 truas, because that turns out that you just blew a tkiya, according to Rashi. You have smaller tkiyas, yeah. So it comes out. So your shvarim needs to be smaller than 3 truas combined in according to Rashi. So I'm sorry.
But this is not what we pass on as halacha, though, right?
We don't paskin that you're not yaitze b'di'evet, but the Alter Rebbe quotes, I mean, it's quoted in Shulchan Aruch, that you should try to be careful not to make your shvarim larger than 3 truas, according to Rashi, because you'll end up making a tkiya, Rashi's tkiya. Yeah, he quotes it. You should be careful about this.
But don't we add it specifically in Chabad? Maybe it was just the Rebbe that did, like, to add like a little bit more after the shvarim.
Yeah. Then there's something else, but that's there's a little a tiny tkiya at the end of the shvarim.
Right.
But that's not telling me the size of the shvarim. The size of the shvarim should be lechatchila should be shorter than 3 truas together. The shvarim should be not longer than the than 3. Yeah, very, very detailed here. Okay. Taisvis goes through this whole thing. This is the big Taisvis here, all about this. Shir trua kishalish yavavis. How big is a trua? Is 3 yavavis. We'll see what a yavav is. Rashi says it's just the sound. Taka barishaino mashach b'shnei kishnayim. Let's say you blew the tkiya before the trua. Regular. Then you blew a tkiya after the trua, but you extended it twice as long as you should have. So what you wanted to do over there is you wanted to do, because you have to do malchias, zechrenis, and shayfris. So the middle one that you did, the second tkiya, you wanted it to cover as an end tkiya for malchias and a first tkiya for zechrenis. It says ein biyadei alachas. It doesn't work like that. You can't divide it up. Remember, we had before that if you hear half a tkiya, you could be your yar yaitze, but it doesn't mean you can divide a tkiya into half. Misha beirach v'achikach nesman alei shayfer. Someone that said Shemon Esrei. Beirach over here means he davened musaf. In middle of musaf is when you do the blowing, but he didn't get it till afterwards, so that's fine. So you blow 3 times tkiya trua tkiya. That's in place of the malchus zechrenis and shayfris. This sounds like every person has to blow their own shayfer. The shliach tzibur blows, and every person has to blow. Rabbi Gamliel says it's not necessary because the shliach tzibur covers everyone. The Gemara has a question over here, and the Gemara's answer is not so clear. Vahatanya, we have a brisa that says different than our Mishnah. Shir tkiya ketrua. What did we say in the Mishnah? We said shir tkiya keshalish truas. Three truas. Now we learned it that it was but now the Gemara is not learning it like that. Now the Gemara is learning that shalish truas sounds like 3 sets of truas. If each trua would be 3,
Yeah, I can see that.
we say it's 9, but if each trua would be 3, it would be 3 sets of truas. So, and now we're saying shir tkiya is only like 1 trua. Amrabaya tani didan kachashiv tkiya the kulabavi, a trua the kulabavi tanabra kachashiv chad bava v'sulai. We're talking about is each tkiya has to be the size of each trua. So the tkiyas are the size of the 3 truas. Or the way the Bryce is saying it, each tkiya is the size of the trua.
So it's 3.
So the Mishnah was referring to, I think it's like a different shot in the Mishnah, but the Mishnah is saying when it says the tkiyas, it's referring to all 3 sets of tkiyas. Each one is going to be the size of its. Each one's going to be not each one. They're the size of the 3 truas. And as you're talking about the whole group, as opposed to the Bryce, which is talking about an individual one. Now we said shir trua kigimel yavavos, that each trua is the size of 3 sounds. But Tanya shir trua kishleisha shvarim. But we say a trua has to be the size of 3 shvarim. That's where we came out with the 9.
Yes.
23.
Yeah.
Amar Abaya b'havadei pligi. Here we have a machlekes. The ksiv, one pasuk says yem trua yelachem. You see, Abaya in the first case, he avoided the machlekes. He said it depends what they're talking about. Now he says, now I can't get away with this. Now I have to admit that there is a machlekes here. Trua, the targum of trua is yevava. Usually, by the way, it's Rabbi Yosef that gives us the targum. Here, Abaya, which is Rabbi Yosef's student, gives us the targum. It means a yevava. Trua means yevava. What's a yevava? We'll see in a moment. Uksiv be'emed de Sisra, and it says by Sisra's mother. Sisra was a general that was fighting with, was it Devorah and Barak, right? And she, he ended up with the headache. Ends up in Yael's tent with a peg through his head. So he doesn't return. And the mother is standing by the window hoping that he's going to come back. It says over there, by the window, she's watching, Sisra, and she's like wailing or crying or whimpering. So it says Vatiyaviv, the mother is crying. One holds that what does Vatiyaviv mean?
Yeah, but there's because she was so certain he was such a great warrior
That he was going to come back.
It was such a certainty that he would always come back. And then when he didn't come back, she didn't believe that he wouldn't come back. And then when he finally set in, it was this most deepest cry from the inside that brought out, which Chachamim actually took it and said that is the essence of what the sound of the shofar should be. That it in the most unexpected capacity and so deep.
Wow.
From whose cry?
The sister's mother.
Whoa.
But he's saying is that
She was so used to. No, she was so used to it. It was such a factual situation that he would always come back from battle and always won. There was no doubt in our mind.
But what we're seeing is that after the denial stage, then it becomes the deepest. It's because then you have both together. You have like the loss and you're like recovering from that denial that gets much deeper. Wow. Okay. So what's the translation of Genuchi Kanach in the Steindals? Was it just a cry or is it a wail?
I lost my place.
Genuchi Ganach means to wailed. Marsava Yulula Yolel. What is Yulula Yolel? To whimper?
I have Genuchi as moaning.
Oh, to moan. That's a good translation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is Yulula Yolel? Is to
Whimper.
To whimper. Yeah. So Genuchi Ganach would be an extended sound, like like to moan. And Yulula Yolel is this to cry. That's the Yulula Yolel. So what was happening over there? We don't really know. We know that Trua is a Yevava because the Targum says that. We don't know what a Yevava is. So it's either a Trua, what we call Trua, which is right, or it's a moan, which is what we call a Shvarim, a groan, a moan. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. So Tanu Rabbanan. Okay, now we have so that's the machlekes between the Brisa and the Mishnah. Mishnah says Kishleisha Shvarim is a Trua. And the Brisa says Shleisha Shvarim, and the Mishnah said Shalish Yevavos. So Yevavos we're translating now as a Trua or a versus the Brisa, which is a Shvarim. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan Minayin Shebeshayfar. Very interesting question. How do you know? Like very, very basic, fundamental. How do you know that you have to use a shofar when you do? It says Yom Trua Yelachem, and for Rosh Hashanah that it's a day of blasting the shofar, the day of blasting, of sounding something. How do you know that it's a shofar? Talmud Laimar, we have a pasuk that by Yovel Va'avarta shofar Trua, that you'll blow with the shofar. Ainly Ela b'Yovel, but that's a by Yovel Rosh Hashanah Minayin. So Talmud Leim b'Chodesh Hashvi. By the pasuk by Yovel, it says that on the Yom Kippurim b'Chodesh Hashvi, b'Yom Kippurim, I know when Yom Kippur is. You don't have to tell me that it's Chodesh Hashvi. Shein Talmud Leim b'Chodesh Hashvi. Ma Talmud Leim b'Chodesh Hashvi. Why is it saying it's in the 7th month? So culture shel Chodesh Hashvi is that because it's coming to tell me that all blowings of the 7th month are going to be the same. And if that's the case, by Yovel it's with a shofar. By Rosh Hashanah it's with a shofar. You hear? But that's where we're getting the source of shofar from. Minayin shepshuta lefana. You said that it's Yom Trua, but how do you know that you have to blow a tekiah? Talmud Leimar va'avarta shofar Trua. Va'avarta teaches me that there's a tekiah before. All right. Minayin shepshuta lachara. How do you know that there's a tekiah after the trua? Talmud Leimar taviru shofar. So this havara is a sound of tekiah. Now the only problem is veinli ela b'yovel. Those psukim v'avarta shofar and taviru shofar, that's by yovel. Rosh Hashanah minayin. Well, we worked this out already. Talmud Leim b'Chodesh Hashvi. It says in the 7th month. Shein Talmud Leim b'Chodesh Hashvi. Ma Talmud Leim b'Chodesh Hashvi. Why is it saying the 7th month? You're called Truas Chodesh Hashvi Zekazeh. We already know that all the blowings of the 7th month are all the same. You do it by Yovel, you do it for Rosh Hashanah. Minayin l'shalish shel shalish. How do you know you have to do 3 sets of Malchus, Zechrenis, and Shofars? So here, Talmud Leimar, we have 3 verses. One says Va'avarta Shofar Trua. One says Shabbos in Zichron Trua. And one says Yom Trua Yelachem. 2 of them are Rosh Hashanah. One of them is by Yovel. Va'avarta Shofar Trua is Yovel. But Shabbos and Zichron Trua and Yom Trua Yelachem is Rosh Hashanah. So that tells me that there's 3. How do you know that you put the Yovel together with the Rosh Hashanah, that you combine them together? Maybe it's 1 by Yovel and 2 by Rosh Hashanah. Talmud Leimar Shvi l'gzeir shava. It says Shvi twice, once by Yovel, once by Rosh Hashanah, and it's coming to tell me Haketzad Sholish Shein Teisha. I'm sorry, l'gzeir shava. Haketzad. How do you do this? Sholish, you do 3 sets. Shein Teisha, which is a total of 9. Yeah, 3 sets of 3. Shir Tkiya Ketrua, Shir Trua Keshleisha Shvarim. The size of the tekiah is the size of the trua, which is the insert, and the size of the insert is shleisha shvarim, 3 shvarim. Now the Gemara goes back and says that you weren't perfectly consistent here. When you wanted to compare what you did on Yovel and Rosh Hashanah, you told me it says b'Chodesh Hashvi, and that was, it says Chodesh Hashvi, that tells me everything is the same. And then you said, how do you know that you have Malchus, Zechrenis, and Shofars? You said you make a Gzeir Shava. But Tanami Kara Maisla Be'akesha. Originally, it was a comparison of everything that's Chodesh Hashvi is the same. And then V'hashta Maisla Gzeir Shava. Now you're telling me it's a Gzeir Shava. It says Hachi Kamar. What it means to say is Ilav Gzeir Shava Ave Maisla Be'akesha. You're right. I have a Gzeir Shava, which is always done with a tradition. But if I didn't have the Gzeir Shava, I would have had it logically as well with a comparison. Hashta Dasi Gzeir Shava Kesh Leitzarach. I don't need the Hekesh anymore. V'tana ma'isila b'gzeir shava mi midbar. V'haitana ma'isila b'gzeir shava mi midbar. We learn it from the desert. The Tanya was taught in the Brisa. Skatem trua. You would blow a trua. That means tkiya b'fnei atzma, a trua b'fnei atzma. You hear what happened? Uskatem trua. One is an expression of a tkiya. One is an expression of a trua. Maybe it's coming to translate what a tkiya is, it's a trua, or maybe translate what a trua is, it's a tkiya. So I have another verse that says, I know when you're traveling, you're going to blow uskatim trua, you're going to blow, it uses the expression of tkiya and trua. But when you're only gathering the people, you only do a tkiya, not a trua. It tells me that they're separate. Could have thought Skatim Trua was a translation. It's going to tell me that the pasuk that says when you get the people will gather, when they made the trumpets. And so it says over there, you just blow a tkiya, but v'leis tariu, you don't do the trua. Haviyam tkiya b'fnei atzma, trua b'fnei atzma. Okay. Minayin shepshuta lefnei. How do you know that you blow first a tkiya? Tamleima uskatim trua. Minayin shepshuta lachra. Tamleima trua yisku. It says first says trua, then afterwards it says tkiya. So now I know this is a different way of learning it. We learn it from the desert. Because when it's talking about in the desert, with the trumpets, over there it says what they would do. So we learn from there that it's Tkiya, true Tkiya. Rabbi Yishmael ben Yishmael B'Yechin ben Mereka Emerein Etzarech. Harei Oimer Skatem Trua Shenis. It says that you'll blow a trua again. Shein Talmud Leimer Shenis. It doesn't have to say again. Ma Talmud Leimer Shenis. Why does it have to say a second time? Zebnei Av Shekol Makom Shnemer Trua Te Tkiya Shniela. Whenever it says trua, you always have a secondary tkiya that's before or after. This is only by the desert when they made the trumpets. Rosh Hashanah Minayin, how you're going to compare this to Rosh Hashanah and say the same thing applies? Talmud Leimer trua l'gzer shava. It says trua over there, it says trua here. It's a gzer shava. Gzer shava means a verbal analogy. We compare that context to this, and it says based on a word. That word is there and that word is here. So that connects it together. So we have different sources here. One is from Yovel, one is from the desert. Rishalish truas nemer Rosh Hashanah, and it says 3 truas in Rosh Hashanah: Shabbos and Zichron trua, Yom trua, and Va'avarta Shefer trua. Va'avarta Shefer trua is actually by Yovel. Ushtei tkiyas l'chol achas va'achas, and then you have 2 tkiyas for each one because one before, one after. Matzina l'meidin. What does this teach us? That shalish truas v'sheish tkiyas. Nemer Rosh Hashanah. It says 3 truas. Oh my God, I didn't see the time. 3. Let's see where I can stop.
It's a ton of Gemaras here.
I'm gonna try to get to the bottom of the page. So it says 3 truas and 6 tkiyas. One of them is actually rabbinic because that was by Yovel. 2 of them were by Rosh Hashanah, but nevertheless, we're going to do it anyway. It's rabbinic, but it's not the actual meaning of the verse that we have to do that on Rosh Hashanah. Shabbos
also.
Yeah, but Yovel was done on Yom Kippur, and we're making a
also
comparison. It's biblical.
It's biblical.
For Yovel, but for Rosh Hashanah to do the third one on Rosh Hashanah is a rabbinic teaching. Shabbos and Zichron Trua Va'avarta Shefer Trua Midivrei Torah, that it says by Va'avarta Shefer Trua Midivrei Torah. I thought Va'avarta Shefer Trua was by Yovel. Yom Trua Yelachem LeTalmudai Uba. It's just coming to teach us something. Okay. It doesn't have to do with if it's Yovel or not. It just has to do with if it's telling me to blow. He says the opposite. Only one of them is biblical. The other 2 are rabbinic. That's the Yovel one is Midivrei Torah. Shabbos and Zichron Trua v'Yom Trua Yelachem LeTalmudai Haba. My LeTalmudai Haba. What does it mean LeTalmudai? It's mibai bayayim v'lei balayla. It's coming to teach me that you blow by day, not Rosh Hashanah by night. The idach bayayim balayla minalei. What does the other one do? He doesn't say that it's the idach, the other opinion. How does he know that you only blow it by day and not by night? Nafkalemi b'yom kippurim. He learns it from Yom Kippur. B'yom kippurim yalef nigbar nami minei lepshut lefnei pshut lachrea. Then he can also learn from Yom Kippur that there's a tkiya before and tkiya after. He says, Va'avarta tavir le'mashma. He doesn't do it like that. He doesn't learn from, what does it say? Va'avarta shefer trua, that tells me from the first way that we learned on the other page before. It says, Va'avarta shefer trua tells me the tkiya before the tkiya after. Okay. Elamai darshbu, what does he do with Va'avarta? Va'avarta kid Rav Masna. He learns about Rav Masna we had a few days ago. Then Rav Masna Va'avarta derech havarasei ta'aviru. I'm sorry, derech havarasei. That you have to do the shofar. You have to keep it the way it was originally made. You can't make it larger on one end, on the wrong end, and thinner on the other end. Ta'aviru de kamarachmana. And what's the ta'aviru? Navir biyad. Ta'aviru we could have understood that you don't actually blow it. I mean, you just carry it around the whole area. The idach, the Rav Masna. 1 second. Oh, if it wouldn't have told me that Taviru is a tkiya, then I would have thought that Taviru meant that you just carry it around. The idach, the Rav Masna, midmeshani b'diburai. The fact that it says it different. Taviru biyad lematzis amrit. You never would have thought that taviru means to carry it around. The Gemara ever mimaisha. Ksiv hachav avarta shefer trua. Ksiv hasam vitzav meishavir kol mamachna mala hala makol afkam makol. I never would have thought that. But aviru kol always means a sound. This one that learned it from the desert, which is over here, Rabbi Shmuel, or the Brisa of Rabbi Shmuel. Over there it was trumpets, it wasn't a shofar. It says clearly that you have to use a shofar. What's the holiday that the moon is covered? Rosh Hashanah. Okay, asking Rabavo. Asking Rabavo Bekisri. Rabavo instituted in Kisri. That's where he lived. Tkiya, Shleisha Shvarim, Trua, Tkiya. That's where this comes from. That you have a Tkiya, Shvarim, Trua, Tkiya. That's Rabavo's institution. Before that, Rabavo, you would have had a Tkiya, Shvarim, Tkiya in some communities, Tkiya, Trua, Tkiya in some communities, and Rabavo institutes Tkiya, Shvarim, Trua, Tkiya. Manavshach, the Gemara asks, Iyalula Yalil, if it's a cry, Laver tkiya, trua tkiya, then you should do it just a tkiya. And if it's a moan, so then liavet tkiya shleisha shvarim tkiya. You're not doing it correctly, according to Rabavo. The Gemara thinks Rabavo is only doing one way, tkiya shvarim trua tkiya, and you're missing it. You're not doing it the first two. So the Gemara says misafkele. He really has a doubt. He doesn't know. Maybe it's a cry. You're interrupting the trua from the tkiya with because if you're doing the extra one, maybe it's really a trua, and you're adding a shvarim in. The other avid tkiya, trua tkiya, because you're then going to do a tkiya, trua tkiya. So now we're recognizing that Rabavo has one other set as well. Maybe it's really a shvarim. It's really the kamafsik trua ben shvarim l'tkiya, and now you're adding in a trua in the middle. It says the hadar avid tashat. So now we have the three sets. Elo Rabavo mayaskin. So what did Rabavo gain? It says you already did the two sets. So either way you got it. So here's the chiddush of Rabavo. Mesafkali dilma ganach v'yolil. Rabavo thinks that maybe it's both together. First you have to moan, and then you have to cry. Then you have to do it the other way as well. Maybe first you have to cry and then moan. Maybe it works that way. If a Rabavo really has a doubt that maybe it's both together. So it says, that's not normal. First someone groans and then he cries. He doesn't do it the other way. And that's why there was no doubt for Rabavo to do it like that. Okay. Sorry. We'll learn on Sunday.
Great job.
At 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And we'll try to start Tainus as well. We have an hour then, a little over an hour. So we'll try to start Tainus. And Sunday night is the CM. Yitzi, you taking care of that?
Yep, taking care of.